Today we're going to talk about one of the dangers of interpreting head covering as a practice that was only for a specific culture. You may be unaware, but this passage in 1 Corinthians 11 that deals with head covering is one of the primary scriptures that homosexual advocates point to in support of their position. Stay tuned as we overview their arguments so you can see how they use it to try to persuade Christians that same-sex relationships and marriage is biblically permissible. In 1 Corinthians 11, Paul appeals to what nature teaches us about our hair lengths as a reason why women should cover their heads. Here's what he says. Does not even nature itself teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a dishonor to him, but if a woman has long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given to her for a covering. So Paul says that nature teaches us that men having short hair and women having long hair is natural. What is important for you to know is the Greek word he uses for nature is phusis, and the Greek word for disgrace is atimia. Let's remember those words as we look at Romans 1, where Paul teaches us about the naturalness of heterosexuality. For this reason God gave them up to dishonorable passions, for their women exchanged natural relations for those that are contrary to nature. And the men likewise gave up natural relations with women and were consumed with passion for one another. So in Romans 1 and 1 Corinthians 11, we have a perfect parallel. Both are written by the Apostle Paul, both appeal to what nature teaches us, and both call the contrary practice dishonorable. The same exact Greek words for nature and dishonorable are used in both passages. So now let me show you how those advocating same-sex relationships frame their argument. I'm going to show you a clip from Rachel Held Evans. If you're unfamiliar with her, she's a self-described Christian feminist who's probably best known for her book, A Year of Biblical Womanhood. In this clip, she makes reference to an argument made by Matthew Vines from his book, God and the Gay Christian, the Biblical Case in Support of Same-Sex Relationships. Here's what she says.
One of the things that I thought was most interesting is that when Matthew pointed out the fact that when Paul talks about these relationships being unnatural, the same word he uses there is the word that he uses to describe women who don't cover their head when they pray. And I was very familiar with that passage because I had covered my head whenever I was praying during my year of biblical womanhood. So that I thought that was an interesting connection. We don't say that women who pray without their head covered these days are acting unnaturally. We understand that there is some context there. There were some cultural assumptions there. And yet, when we encounter that word, when Paul's using it to describe these relationships, we jump on that and say, well, look, the word used here is unnatural, and we all know what that means. So I thought that was a really interesting parallel in connecting my own experience to Matthew's in this passage.
Rachel Held Evans wants you to see the inconsistency of calling hair lengths and head covering cultural, but viewing heterosexuality as a natural part of God's order. She, along with Matthew Vines and others, are pointing out this inconsistency so that you'll join them in embracing same-sex relationships as biblically permissible. Now look, I want you to see this inconsistency too, but I don't want you to abandon God's design for sexuality. I instead want you to abandon the cultural view of head covering. So, let's see where you stand. Here's a set of questions for you. Question number 1. Do you believe that homosexuality is right or wrong based on culture's judgment? Or do you believe that God has an original design for sexuality that should be followed? Question number 2. Do you believe that long hair on men is right or wrong based on culture's judgment? Or do you believe that God has an original design for our hair lengths that should be followed? However you answer these questions, to be consistent, you must answer both the same. Since we have the same author making the same moral judgment by appealing to the same reason, we must treat both the same. So it's time for us to get consistent on this issue. If you'd like to hear a defense for why head covering is not a cultural issue, visit headcoveringmovement.com/study.